So I'm going to share with you my story from an ivory tower architect to a social technical facilitator. Up. Is it working? So my name is Amal Tahri, and I'm an information system architect and a DDD enthusiast. You can reach me on LinkedIn, you can reach me also on Twitter, and I work for Octo Technology. So today, I'm gonna share with you a communication story that I have all along my career. When I was an enterprise architect, and then when I've become a social technical facilitator, and I'm gonna leave you with some takeaways from the story that I have learned and the lessons I'm gonna share with you. So first of all, let's start by talking about enterprise architecture. So it all started in, on a castle, on a little hill between the mountains, somewhere in the west of France. Actually, it was Grenoble, and I was working on the tower, and this is where I've got the idea about this talk. Actually, the context is a classical context where you have enterprise with several layers, and there's hierarchy, and there are isolated silos. So you have different departments. Actually, you don't know which one is working on what. And then you'll have this complex organization, and it's some kind of maze that you need to navigate through it with different processes, different approaches. And it all started with a first point and a start point and an end point, and you need to get through the difficulties of communication to get the job done. So at first I was working on abstraction and theory, working on a standard for international standard for architecture description, and it was like templates, and you have heavy documentation, and you are the architecture referee. And what you need to produce is this model. It's a UML model, and it was actually so present in this enterprise. And in order to get this thing done, actually, you need to communicate, and you need to navigate this communication maze. You need to identify who are the right person to deal with, which information you're going to take from these persons, and how you're going to put it together to have the scenario that you had to present as an architect. So first of all, you identify this this person that is an isolated thinker somewhere, like on a department that you need to go through. And you say, hey, so I was an isolated thinker at once. I know how to talk to these people without scaring them. So here the idea is just to go and talk to them. Then you're happy, you just talk to them, you have information for them, and you just try to bridge the gap that you have between this isolated thinker and the other isolated thinker, because you need them to talk together, to work on this architecture scenario that you need to present for some committee, because you always have a deadline and you need to get the things done before this deadline. And then you go to the other side, to the other person, and you talk to them, and I have this information coming from the other person, so what do you think about it? And are you okay? So can we like have a meeting to talk all together about the situation? And I say yes. And then you go onto the negotiation phase. And when you have a negotiation phase, actually you will pass through a committee, you will have a budget meeting, you will have costing, you will have like several priority, and you need to establish what is your roadmap. Sometimes the negotiation goes just well, and sometimes the negotiation is not that well. And you get angry, and people get angry, and you need to get the thing done, and you get controlling, and you have to impose what to need to be done. At some point, you have all these roles that you have acquired as an enterprise architect. So you are the one who live in abstraction, you know all the theory, you know all the standard, you know also how to think, how to analyze, how to get from one point to another. You learn how to be the messenger between people that don't want to talk to each other. You learn to negotiate actually, and how to get people to manage conflict and to pass through this political side to get the job done. And if it is not done as you want to, you get mad and actually it get the job done. At certain point of my career, I wanted to change, because at a time when you are navigating this barrier of communication, you don't get really the job done. In the sense, the architecture that you are building is just two people that don't want to communicate together, and you are doing the messenger between them. You are writing for them proposals, so for them to correct it, and you are not really in the innovation, you are not really creating something. So I just said, I want to be in a situation or in an enterprise where I can innovate, where I can create something, and I can be really near the development team who are in the heart of the action. So I've changed jobs. Now I found myself in a really social technical system with different stakeholders, and each stakeholder actually is working on a different viewpoint. So you can find the product manager, you can find the chief product officer, who are setting the strategy of the business strategy of the product. You can have the product designer who are working near to the users to really detect what is the user need in to use in this product. Then you have the organization viewpoint with several coaches and COO, and you have the functional viewpoint, like handled by product owners, and then you have the technical viewpoint where you have the chief technical officer, the architecture, several coach, technical leader, developer, and the operational team. So I was in this innovative situation, innovative system that I was never been before, and I was like telling myself, I'm working with teams that are very autonomous, that have the ability actually to take decision, that have managed dependency without an architect that is between them to say, come and talk to the other one. There is no more silos, the communication is direct, and the flow was fast and efficient, and they had really remarkable delivery performance. And I was asking myself, like, what is my role in this context? From my point of view, from the enterprise architect point of view, the one who was used to abstraction, the one who was used to standards, to guiding principle, I found there was a lack of documentation. I found that the framing process was actually chaotic. I found also that it was difficult to construct a system big picture, and this actually will not help me define the evolution process regarding the architecture. So I said, this is like, I don't find really where's the role of architect in this self-organized system. And I saw an opportunity when we had an integration problem, and there are several teams that are involved, and the idea is to integrate an external system within our domain. And said, hey, this is a problem that I actually know. And with my hat of the messenger, I said, okay, so I can propose to team to talk to them. I'll be your entry point to communicate with your team. So for the team responsible for the integration, it doesn't have actually to go and ask the first team, hey, what do you think about this one? And ask the second team. And I was like, I can do the job. It's something that I have already done. And you have the CTO that comes and see me, and actually, it is not your job to do that. It's the team responsibility to deal with their own dependencies. And I was like, what? Where do I fit in, actually? So I just took a second and said, note to self, no messenger in this context. So, okay. Then I've tried to talk with my CTO and to ask how he sees me in this self-organized system. Where is really my role and how can I help teams? So the CTO said, actually, you can help teams define architecture structure. And I felt like structure, and I took my hat of abstraction, and I thought about UML, and I thought about UML diagram, enterprise architecture, heavy documentation. Okay, so I said, we can start with documentation. Well, once again, my CTO said, actually, it's the team responsibility to document their work. And I was like, what? Once again, I had note to self, so no abstract, no documentation in this context. And I was trying just to put the roles that I've already knew and I've already used in previous contexts to see how it can fit in this organization. And actually, there was a social technical facilitator that I have actually seen the fact that I'm imbalanced in this situation, and I don't know where to, how to act and how to fit in with the teams. And so he asked me, what do you need that for? And the negotiator in me said, okay, so once I have the documentation, actually it is a mean to interview teams, to understand what they do, to pinpoint the problem, and then to propose a solution. And once again, my CTO said, well, it's the team responsibility to identify problems and to propose solutions. And like, what? So where do I really fit in? And actually, the facilitator, the social technical facilitator said to me, I'm facilitating an event storming, come and see. And it was the first time that I have assisted to event storming. It was during actually COVID-19, and it was remotely. And actually, I think that you have all seen this. You have connected on the Miro, and you see the cursors and the mouses of other people putting post-it everywhere, and people it was for me, it's chaos. I didn't understand anything. People are putting post-it and people are talking and there's a conversation here and another one there. And sometimes, you see something emerging. You understand what is the process. You understand, you can hear a domain expert intervening and say, oh, actually, it's not really that. And he is correcting and he is giving the right information. And actually, there was a collaboration. There were a developer, there were a domain expert, there were a product owner, and the team were engaged, and they are actually doing the work. So everyone is putting his post-it and explaining his point of view and discussing with the other part. And bit by bit, you can see the emergent solution. And it's fascinating, and you have the isolation of domain, and you have the separation of concerns and everything, and you have the problem transparency where you put a hotspot on a problem where you are not okay, and just like that, just so transparent. And there was the facilitator. He was standing in between of this chaos, so calm, so observing, and I was like, it's nice, actually. There's no problem, there's no conflict, there's no people getting angry and everything. And what I saw is he's being patient, he's being calm, he's being in a deepest state of thinking. He didn't take sides when there was hotspot or there's problems that are arising. He was a good listener. He actually listened to what people says, not just to respond, but really to understand what they are saying. And he was actually encouraging, participating, to be actor. And then I said, So am I really an ivory tower architect? I don't have the same posture, I'm not like him, I don't let people work together and collaborate. And I had I just thought about all this role that I have played in previous life. And I said, so like we have seen that the negotiator is not working, the negotiator is working, but the abstract is not working. The thinker and analyst is working. The messenger, not so much. Well, the controlling and impatient, not a chance. So, have I the courage to change it? And it was like a moment where it's not comfortable because all what you know and all what you have done for several years and have worked for several years is not working anymore. And I said, hell yeah, I can change. And then I said, I'm going to keep the negotiator, I'm going to keep the thinker and the analyst. What do I lack? Techniques. I know the technique, I have the thinking head, I have the analysis head. So all these new names of event storming, context mapping, core domain chart, I can learn them, there's no problem. What is lacking? There's the concept of social technical. So I have the negotiator hat on, I can deal with that. I have the Cartesian in me, I have the analytical, I have the rigor, I have the structure. What is really missing? Maybe the collaboration. Yeah, it is missing. I've always worked alone. Even if I worked with people, it was just to manage conflict and to negotiate which part will go before that part. The communication, yeah, I had some work to do on that also. I don't really listen. I was the one proposing to do the job for people. I was not letting them emerge like slowly and take the time to understand and do really the work. The emotional, when you're an enterprise side, so it's not good to show emotion, that's out of question. Creativity, okay, I like what I'm doing, so this is something that there's not a problem, and improvising. And improvising was one of the most difficult part because when you're in enterprise architecture, you are used to frame, you are used to structure, you are used to well-defined process and steps, and improvising, it's really getting out of your comfort zone. And then so I said, I have to choose really the thing that will make a difference with these people. So I can connect really with my developers, I can work with them. Which one will I choose? And I chose the communication. When you're an enterprise architect, actually you get to know to write well, you express yourself. This means that people can read what you have meant and they can interpret as they want to. In communication, there's also the verbal side. So this one, we can deal with it, but actually, in the verbal side, what you have learned, what's the difference between enterprise architect and a facilitator, you really listen. And why do you listen? To immerse yourself in the other one perspective. Not just to propose something, to be the actor, to have the solution, to really understand and to help him understand or get through what he is going through, to be actor and to propose a solution. And of course, there was the non-verbal, and it's my favorite one. The non-verbal, actually, people don't pay attention to how are they acting or where they are looking at or how they are just so rigid and firm about themselves. And actually, in the facilitation, you pay attention to these signals. And you see that there are people that are far away, and there are people that are more here in the situation. And you can actually capture this moment just to see and to invite people. So can you join us? Can you express yourself? Can you, what do you think about this post-it? And it's like all of this is not technique that you learn or you read on some standard or some template that you have to provide. It's something that you get from social interaction. And to really to be a facilitator and to be good at what you do, you have to focus on the social nature and the human nature. And hopefully, I can become the facilitator that will encourage teams' autonomy. And this point is actually very important because when you are an architect or an enterprise architect, you are in control. You have constraints. You are the one who has to deliver. You are the one who has to propose a solution, to be in a committee or to pass a milestone or something. So you are the one delivering something. And when you are a facilitator, actually you are helping people to deliver something. You don't do things. You're not actor. You're just facilitating, just opening the path to people to communicate, to work on what is missing, what they cannot see, to propose their solution, because they are the one who are going to develop it, and it is the developer understanding that will go to production, as Brandolini said. So, as a takeaway, I will leave you with 3 lessons learned. Actually, one of the biggest fear moments that I had in this journey and this transformation, it was regarding change. I was using tools and roles that I've learned and that have worked for some situation in a different context and where it does not apply. So maybe you need to take a step back and to observe what is around you and what is the context that you are into, and try to find the way and adapt yourself to work with this situation. Another point is the team autonomy. Actually, when you say team autonomy, it doesn't mean that you're going to take the decision for them. If you are really immersing yourself in this concept of social technical and team autonomy, you must be able to give back the control to the team and to trust them because they are doing what is best for your product, because they are the one who are really manipulating the code to seeing what is it. Trust them to be actors of the change that you want to see. And the third point, actually, there is no magic potion for you to change. It's just you have to adapt yourself. You stop being rigid and you just see what is going and how the flow is going and what is the energy that you can capture. And hopefully you became a facilitator. Thank you.